Okay, so we're now introducing the course, which is company law. And for the fact that we will have to focus more on the type of business, which is a company, we will still have to look at the other two types of businesses that we have, which is a sole trader and partnership. So a sole trader, it's a type of business that is owned by a single person. He or she may hire people to work for them, and they remain responsible for the running and operation of the business. So I'm pretty sure that you've seen maybe a shop, or can I say a wholesale, which is known as Period and Sons, or maybe Mulenga and Sons. So you find that those people who own such businesses are known to be sole traders, because it's usually an individual who is in charge of that business, and they would just maybe hire people to work for them, and but they are the ones who have full responsibility of the management of that business. So some of the advantages and disadvantages of a sole trader. So we'll begin with the advantages of a sole trader is that one, the person has full control over the direction of the business, for the fact that they are the ones in charge. So they are more like the decision maker. They make all the decisions on how they'll be able to run that business, and they have all the full control. The second advantage is that they have full share in firm's profits. So whenever the company has a huge profit, it will all belong to that person. Or maybe if a company is suffering loss, the person in charge, the sole trader, the owner of that business, will have to incur those losses. And you find that the other advantage is that it's relatively easy to change the business structure. So if at all the person sees that the business is not going well, they have that capacity to be able to change the structure, or maybe how they can be able to manage the business so that it can run smoothly. Some of the disadvantages that are there of a sole trader is that it limits the ability of the firm to grow and raise enough funds for more investment opportunities. So it's a situation where maybe if I try to compare it with partnership, we find that with a partnership or maybe a company, there are different individuals who are in charge of that business under a partnership or maybe a company. Of course, those people will all come with different skills. They all have different ideas, and as a result, a company can easily grow. But with a sole trader, it limits one's ability to make their business grow, because they only have just, they're the ones who are in charge of coming up with the ideas, they're the ones who are in charge of coming up with the decisions, they're the ones who are in charge of the financial muscles. So you find that if the person becomes bankrupt, then the business can even easily die. And they also have the other disadvantage is that the business may suffer from absence if the owner becomes ill, if they become sick, or maybe if they die. Some, in most cases, you find if maybe the owner dies, the business will also die, because the the main character, maybe the person who was coming up with all the ideas on how to manage that business, is no longer in existence. So that's one of the disadvantages. The other disadvantage is that there is unlimited liability, which means all the personal assets are at risk if the business fails to meet its own obligations. So maybe if the person is, like I mentioned, the person becomes bankrupt, meaning that there'll be so much risk of their assets, and it will mean that the business can even easily die. The other disadvantage is that it can be stressful, as the person is the one responsible and may not delegate. So you'd find all the burdens are on just one individual. As a result, it becomes more stressful for them. It's different with partnerships and companies, where with companies where we find the shareholders who appoint directors who are in charge of running the business. So there isn't so much stress on the part of shareholders, because there are people who can do that for them. Then the second type of business, is that clear, David? Do you have any question concerning a sole trader, which is a type of business?
No problem, it's clear.
Oh, all right. Okay. We can now go to the second type of business, which is a partnership. So with the partnership, it's defined as a business structure that is made up of 2 or more people. And most of the times, the number shouldn't exceed 20. So it shouldn't exceed 20 members with whenever a group of individuals want to come up with a business and they want to be partners, the number should not exceed 20. This is in accordance with the Partnership Act. So it's a type of business structure that is made up of 2 or more people who distribute income or losses between themselves as per agreed terms. So you find that with partnerships, it differs because there are different types of partnerships that are there. We have the general partnership, we have the limited partnership, we also have the incorporated limited partnership. So with the general partnership, it is where all the partners have the equal shares in a type of business, meaning that whenever profit comes in, they all have to share it equal. Whenever a loss comes in, or maybe there's a problem that comes in, they all have to share that problem equally. It's different with limited partnership, where a person has to get if it's a profit, you only be given the profit in accordance with the amount that you invested in that business. So it's different from a general partnership. So with limited partnership, you, even when it comes to losses, you only incur a loss in accordance with the investment that you had to put in that business. Then with an incorporated limited partnership, like I have seen it in some past papers, they will tell you to distinguish between a limited partnership and an incorporated limited partnership. So with an incorporated limited partnership is that they should be a general partner. So I'll give an example where maybe there's A, B, and C. So maybe amongst these guys, they'll have to choose a general partner. So with this general partner, there'll be, he or she will be the one who have to incur all the dates that will be happening in the company, or maybe in the business. So with an incorporated limited partnership, of course, it's limited to an extent where these other partners will only have profits in accordance with what they invested in. But whenever it comes to issues with the dates of the business, the general partner is the one who have to clear out those dates. Have you understood the difference between a limited partnership and the incorporated limited partnership?
Yeah, maybe you can repeat.
Okay, so
a little bit, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I mentioned that with a limited partnership, the partners are limited in such a way that when it comes to profits, they only get the profit in accordance with what they invested in. So maybe let me say this is a business, for example, then or maybe let me just try to share the whiteboard so that maybe you can understand what I'm trying to talk about. Okay. Can you see the whiteboard?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So so with the general partnership, so we find that this is a business, right? And there are maybe different partners. Maybe we have partner A, partner B, and partner C. So you find that whenever a problem comes, all of these will need to solve this whole problem that is here. They'll all have to solve the problem. All of them they'll all share the problem equally. But it's different with a limited partnership, where we find that we find that this is a business. Okay, so we find that this is a business, and it would be like divided. So you find part A maybe invested so much money, maybe half of the money that had to make this business come about, it all belonged to part A. Then maybe part B only contributed this amount, and part C only contributed this amount. So meaning that with a limited partnership, part A, whenever a problem comes, part A will have to solve most of the problems that will happen. Or maybe whenever there's so much profit, 50% of the profit that has been made in this business will belong to part A. Then maybe the other 50, it will be 25% will be given to part B, and the other 25 will be given to part C. Have you understood? Have you understood on that part?
Yes, I've seen it.
Yes.
Okay.
Then so this is the limited partnership. Then when it comes to the incorporated limited partnership, it is where I'll give the same example. This is the business that has happened, and we have different partners. So what will happen is that, so we have part A, we have part B, okay, we have part C and part D. So amongst these guys, they'll have to choose a general partner. So maybe they will choose, for example, okay, we choose part C will be our general partner, meaning that whenever a problem occurs, of course, whenever profit is being made, they'll all have to get in accordance with the shares they had to put in accordance with the investment that they had to put in. But whenever it comes to issues of the dates and the like, it will be part C, who is the general partner, who was made to be the general partner, who needs to incur the dates. He or she is the one who has to resolve the dates that will be happening in that company, in that business. Have you understood?
Yes, I've understood. But now why? What conditions or what influences that they choose one person and then he incurs all the debts, and what advantages is it this general partner will enjoy?
Okay, so when it comes to partnership, these people sign, it's more like a contract. There are terms that will be there that they sign. They say, they'll all give those terms to say, okay, whenever a problem comes in, then I will be the one who has to incur the problem. And so I'll give an example to say, if part C, like I mentioned, so if C is the one who is now the general dealer, the general partner, if he's the one who retains all the debts, these other guys will have to maybe start repaying back the person, because the business should not stop going further just because they have a loss. At least one person needs to resolve the issue, and whilst the business is running, these other guys will have to start paying back to the other person. You've gotten it?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Then now, how many types of partnership are there? So are they 3 only, or maybe there are others?
There aren't any other.
Sorry?
Pardon?
So how many
Pardon?
types of partnership are there?
Oh, there are 3 types of partnerships that are there.
Okay.
So we mentioned we have the general partnership, where
Yes.
everyone has to suffer the losses, everyone enjoys the benefits of the business. Then we have the limited type of partnership, the one where everyone will have to suffer the loss in accordance with what they invested in that business. So if one had to put half of the money in that business, they invested almost half of the money, the person will have to suffer the loss in accordance with the investment that they had to put in. If one had to invest maybe 25% in that business, meaning that whenever it comes to profits, they'll also enjoy 25% of the profit that is made. Then the third type of partnership is that of the incorporated limited partnership, where a person, of course, these other partners, they choose a general partner. The general partner is the one who will be in charge of the losses. And you asked a very good question to say, why is it that the person will have to suffer the loss alone, while these others will only suffer a loss, they will enjoy the benefits in accordance? It's because of the terms that they sign. So they come up with the contract and they will agree on certain terms to say, okay, if the general partner will have to repay back all the debts, meaning that these other partners will have to start repaying back, because honestly, no one can accept to say that whenever a loss happens, then I'll resolve all the losses while others enjoy. Of course, they'll sign a contract, they'll make a deal to say, okay, so whenever a problem comes in, it's more like a guarantee. These others will assure the person to say, okay, whenever a problem comes in, you will pay back the debts, then us will begin paying back as the business continues. You've understood, right?
Sure, very clear, madam, now.
All right, thank you. Then
Thank you so much.
now, pardon?
No,
Do you have?
I'm saying it's clear. No question.
Oh, all right. Okay, thank you. Then we now have the third type of business. So we've looked at a sole trader, we've looked at partnership, we've now looked at, we now want to look at a company. So when it comes to companies, these are owned by shareholders who each put an amount of money into a central pool. So companies usually have shareholders where each person will have to invest something into that company, like and these people who put in that amount of money into coming up with a business, or maybe coming up with a company, those guys are called shareholders. So this is governed by the Companies Act. Whenever it comes to this type of business, the Companies Act guides on how. So I will send the Companies Act in the group after we're done with this lesson, so that you can also be passing it through and be able to understand better, because this whole course will be all focused concerning the Companies Act. No wonder it's called the company law. So the Companies Act, it's the statute that governs all the companies that we have in Zambia. So it will guide on how shareholders come about, and these shareholders will have to appoint directors who are in charge of running all the business affairs of that company. So now the shareholders the shareholders receive a portion of share of the profits equivalent to what they had to put in. Then with of course, I mentioned to say a company comes into existence when it is registered under the Companies Act. Someone can get confused to say, then how different is a company from a partnership? So the difference with a company and a partnership, of course, the similarity here, like we have seen it, is that there are people involved, there are people who invest the money to come up and to make that business that they want to bring about come into existence. People will invest, and we see that people invest differently. So of course, that's the similarity to say there are people who would invest. But the difference with the two is that with under partnership, a type of business known as a partnership, those people are called partners. Whilst with a company, we have people who are known as shareholders. Then with a partnership, it's not guided by any statute. Most of the times you find that these people just make their terms expressly, so like there aren't any formalities that are followed. But when it comes to company, it's strict. There is the Companies Act. That company needs to come into it, needs to be registered. But with partnerships, there is nothing like registration or anything. But with companies, they need to be registered. They have to go to PACRA and be registered, and all that process for it to come into existence, for people to believe that indeed there's such and such a company. And even if one wants to sue, they can easily go to PACRA and try to find out if at all, is this business truly legal? Is it in existence? But with partnerships, types of businesses where they are partners, there's nothing like registration. These people just like agree on terms. They'll be like, oh, okay, we want to come up with this business of maybe, let me try to give an example. We want to come up with we would want to invest. Maybe we build a big shop where everyone will have to invest. So I'll put this percentage of money, this one will put this percentage of money, the other person will put this percentage of money, and they'll all be able to enjoy the benefits of that business in accordance with the investment. But with companies, it's a whole different process. So now one would ask, like I was trying to give the different types of the distinctions between a company and the partnership. Before I go to the characteristics of a company, like how is the company formed? So before I go there, I would first want to talk about the difference between a company and a partnership, because some people might try to twist the two. So a company, like I mentioned, it can be created by certain prescribed methods, most commonly by registration under the Companies Act, while a partnership, it is created by the express or implied agreements of the parties. Then a company incurs greater expenses at formation, throughout its life, and dissolution, though the needs are not so much excessive. But with a partnership, it does not incur so much great expenses. With the other good example, good difference that you would give is that a company is an artificial legal person. It's distinct from its members. Whereas a partnership, you find that these are people whereby you can be able to even point to say that is the owner, like these are the owners of that business. But with a company, of course, you can never see, maybe let me say ShopRite, it being a company, going like in court. Of course, they need to be like shareholders who have to stand in the name of that thing. So a company is always known to be an artificial person, but it can be sued. So someone can be able to sue a company using the company's name. So it might not be a human being, but it is a natural person. It's rather a legal person, and it has legal rights and obligations, just like a human being has. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm following now, but now I think I don't know if there are some points to come again. Partnership, it can't be sued, or what documents can create the bond or binding of those people? Since you have said the number in partnership, it cannot go more than 20. So what really brings them together to see that the operations are smooth and there are no challenges, no scamming or no swindling? So maybe you can shed more light, madam.
Oh, okay. So like I had mentioned, to say we have the Partnership Act, quite all right. Though with partnership, it does not undergo registration like a company. We do have the Companies Act, but with a company, it needs to be registered under PACRA. But with partnerships, the Partnership Act, it's the one that guides. So I will send these two acts and also state the sections that the ones that we'll be focusing on. So with the Partnership Act, it clearly states that the numbers of the people who need to be partners, like you have seen most firms where you find maybe lawyers, right? They have these people that they call like partners. This person is a partner of this firm. These are partners. So like the partners are not supposed to exceed 20, and they are guided by this act known as the Partnership Act, meaning that even whenever a challenge, or maybe if at all the number surpasses and someone would want to maybe bring in an issue to say, okay, the partners are just too many in this firm, they are able to go in court and be able to stand with Wallace. They are using the Partnership Act, so it will be more like the documents that they'll be standing with. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Clear, madam.
Oh, all right, thank you.
It's clear, sure.
All right, thank you. So I will definitely send the Partnership Act in the Companies Act in the group once I'm done with the lecture. Okay, then we can now go to the characteristics of a company. So like I mentioned, to say one of the characteristics is that it needs to be an incorporated association. What do I mean? Is that it needs to be registered under the Companies Act, and mostly it goes to PACRA. PACRA is the one who have all the details of a certain company, such that if someone is wants to sue that company, they are able to find all they'll be able to find all the details of that company using PACRA. So that's one of the characteristics, is that it is an incorporated association. It needs to be registered under the Companies Act. The other characteristic is that it is an artificial legal person. So in the eyes of the law, a company is an artificial legal person which has the right to sue or be sued. So it cannot be a natural person, while like we see how we see human beings moving around. But of course, it has people who stand up for it whenever maybe someone wants to sue. Like there was a case, I don't know if you saw, for Pamozi Hotel, where there was that case of a massage that went on. I don't know if you saw, if you read that. So of course we cannot see Pamozi Hotel going into court, but instead we find that the shareholders, or yes, the shareholders of Pamozi Hotel will be the one who have to stand in court together with their legal representative. They'll be standing in the name of Pamozi Hotel. Or it can be the same thing with these other companies. They will, the people who hold shares in that company are the ones who go and stand in for that company. So someone is able to sue a company, reason being it is an artificial legal person. The other characteristics, apart from incorporated association and artificial legal person, is that it has separate legal entity. So a company has a distinct entity and it is independent of its members or people controlling it. A separate legal entity means that not only the company is responsible to repay credit, a separate legal entity means that only the company is responsible to repay creditors and go and to get sued for its deeds. So the company will be the one in charge of paying all the credits and the debts. And even if you want to sue, you cannot sue a shareholder, an individual person who has wronged you. Instead, you sue the company. Just like the example I've given of the case that has just, it's still undergoing, of the person who is suing Pamozi Hotel due to the negligence that occurred. So you find that even though it's one person who had to cause that problem, you cannot sue that person. Instead, you need to sue the company. So that is under the separate legal entity. You sue a company in its name. You cannot sue the person who has wronged you. Even though that person works under that company, you have to sue the company itself. Then the other characteristic of a company is that it has perpetual existence. So unlike other non-registered business entities, a company it's a stable business organization. Its life does not depend on the life of its shareholders, directors, and or employees. Members may come and go, of course, which is very true. You find that at times, even though someone was a shareholder, they would want to stop being a shareholder. But it does not mean that if that person stops, then the company dies. Of course, other shareholders are likely to come and invest in that company, and the company will continue to exist. So that's the perpetual existence, it being the characteristic of a company. The other, I hope I'm clear this far.
For sure, it's clear.
All right, thank you. The other characteristic of a company is that it has a common seal, meaning whatsoever contracts that will be made, they need to be signed using the signature that was made for that company. So you find that so let me just try to read this. A company being an official legal person uses its common seal. So with the name of the company engraved on it, of course. It's the same thing when I've seen cases where someone would maybe put a wrong name instead of putting the name of the party that they are trying to sue. And maybe those respondents are able to tell the court to say, this person is suing the wrong party because the name of our company, it's actually Banda and Sons and not Sons and Banda. So one needs to be careful, even as you're making proceedings in court, or you're trying to sign contracts with a company. You need to ensure that you use the name that it used at PACRA when it was being registered. So you have to write like the correct things. So it will have a common seal. It will always have its own name in the signature. Then the other one is that of transferability of shares. The shares of a public limited company are freely transferable. The permission of the company or the consent of any member of the company is not necessary for the transfer of shares, but the articles of the company can prescribe the manner in which the transfer of shares will be made. So the company will be able to do, in accordance with the Companies Act, it will be able to guide on how shares are transferred whenever there is profit, or maybe whenever it's time for people to get their benefits in the shares are able, it's possible for people to get their shares in that company. Then the other characteristic of a company is that it has limited liability. So a company may be limited by guarantee or limited by shares. In a company limited by shares, the ability of the shareholders is limited to the unpaid value of their shares. In a company limited by guarantee, the liability of the members is limited to the amount they had agreed upon to contribute to the assets. I think we're talking about this from the start, where we said one is only limited in that you can only benefit in accordance with how much you invested in that company. So now there are different.
May I come in?
Yes, sir.
Yes. How are shares determined? The number of shares.
How are shares determined?
Yes.
Okay, so is your question in accordance with how we said we under partnership to say that the only partners who are allowed are like 20? So maybe you want to find out how many shareholders can be in a company. Is that your question?
Anyway, something like that.
Or maybe I did not really get your question.
Because
Okay,
like
kindly repeat your question. Maybe.
Okay, like you have said that you know the partnerships or shareholders, they get some shares in the company. So
Yes.
yes, how can you know that? Okay, is there a limited number of shares that shareholders can have, or what's really the process to say, okay, this company should have this number of shares for it to progress?
The Companies Act would definitely guide on that one. So I'll find the provision. I'll find the provision in the Companies Act, the one if at all. Otherwise, from my research, I have not found a limited number of shareholders who should be in a company. I'm pretty sure there isn't any limited number, but for the sake of authority, I'll definitely scan through the Companies Act and see if at all it has. But with the Partnership Act, once the time I was reading it through, it clearly stated that the number should not exceed 20 partners in a business. But with companies, it not have any number. But for the sake of passing through it again and ensuring that we have the accurate answer, I'll definitely pass through the Companies Act and I'll definitely get back to you and see. But right now, there aren't any numbers.
Okay. All right. Hello, madam, are you there? Hello?
Yes, I can get you. Does Zoom have also time? I just saw that it had to make me leave the group, the meeting. Can you get me?
Yes, madam, I'm getting it.
Okay, so it looks like Zoom also have a duration on how long a meeting should be.
Okay.
Yes, and I guess the meeting had just ended. So like you've heard my response, right?
For sure, I've heard, madam, and I will be waiting to receive the documents.
Yes, I will definitely send the Companies Act and the Partnership Act so that for the sake of being on the safe place, you can just be reading them.
Okay.
All right. Okay,
So
due
if
to
this
time,
has got a limited time, what of Google Meet? Can't we be using it?
Google Meet. I'll try
Yes.
to ask the association because
Okay.
I have 2 classes. So right now I need to go into another class.
Okay.
Yes, that is business. Are you also in the other class for business law?
Yes, yes.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Good that I remembered well. I thought I saw maybe it was the other Mangu David. Okay, so yes, so I'm sure that is why they gave me Zoom. So I can be able to finish my classes as early and be able to have another class for business law. So maybe do you have
Okay.
any questions? Then I'll try by all means to say next time we'll need to start on the types of companies that we have and try to look for a paper. The time when I'll come next week, Saturday, I'll try to come with a past paper just to see if at all we can find a question in relation to what we've just covered today, so that we can know how we can be able to answer a question that might have whatsoever thing that we've discussed today. Do you have any question?
No question, madam. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed today's meeting.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Kindly advise your friends to also be joining.
All right. Thank you.
All right, let me just create another link for these guys for business law.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much.
In 6 minutes time, all right? But this is
Yes.
okay. All right. We'll be waiting.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much.